Welcome back. I'm actually really excited to share more about the law of attraction because this is one of my favorite topics to discuss. And as we discussed during the last podcast, we're living in a new time. And in this time in the world, the veil between heaven and earth is so thin. But we also have to be very aware of the loud chaos that is around us at all times. And how do we step out of the chaos and align ourselves and activate co-creating our deepest desires? So welcome to the Karena, Virginia podcast, where we expect the best and get it. Today, we're going to be talking about how nature and how the messages from nature are always aligned with our co-creation. And they are such beautiful reminders of how the divine operates, how the divine works. My absolute favorite flower is the rose. And there's a beautiful book called The Way of the Rose, and it talks about how the rosary has the beauty of the rosary beads has been lost. And I love the book because it really describes how the rosary beads were developed and what they represented, and the crushed roses that were used as the first beads, and the frequency of the rose. At the end of this podcast, I'm going to do a brief meditation with all of you. And if you're driving, obviously, you can just listen to it, but you will be keeping your eyes open and you can listen to it and maybe practice it another time. So in nature and in a garden, there's a morphic field, and a morphic field is nature's aura, nature's electromagnetic field per se. An amorphic field is in constant communication. So just like antennas operate, if I, or even Wi-Fi, right? So you are receiving this through a signal. And if years ago someone said that a woman could be sitting in her house recording something that you would be able to listen to while you were driving in a car, people would say, okay, you're crazy, before cars even, or before any of this. I mean, I remember when I was younger and I would talk on the phone with those old fashioned cords, and we would wrap the cord around the wall to like talk quietly so nobody would hear. And I remember one of my friends said, Gino, one day they're going to have phones where we can see each other. And I said, no way. But yeah, I mean, this is even beyond that. So we have these signals, and nature has always had this signal. And the signal is invisible, but it's the morphic field. It's how nature communicates. And it's also how we have the ability to communicate with one another energetically, and how we have the ability to co-create from that frequency, from that co-creation, from sending our signal out into the ethers, into the heavens, and also even with sharing our signal with other people. Like attracts like. When we're doing our work to be in a high frequency, we often discover that people who are not wanting to be in the same conversations or do the same type of work will fall away. And then we remember that there's a season or reason for all things. And sometimes that's the law of nature. Just like weeds grow in a garden. Um, the flower, for the flower to bloom, needs to be in its own specific vibration. And also when things fall away, we can see if we're feeling rejected, that rejection is actually perfection, or rejection is protection. Because often when things fall away, we're making space for what is meant for us, for our soul's fulfillment. It's so important that we remember that our desires are important because our desires are part of the blueprint for this new world. And our souls know that. So that we wouldn't be here with desires from the heart that were not part of our importance and purpose in co-creating this new world, this new reality. If our desires are about getting a new car because we want to show off, that's not soul desire. That is more a feeling and a second guessing and a longing for something that is not coming from the soul. It's a replacement. It's a replacement for what our soul really longs for. And it can create an illusion. Not that having a nice car is not okay, because of course it's okay. But things like that are never going to be fulfilling us in a sustained way. We always want more. But when the soul is fulfilled, there's a sense of alignment, a sense of safety, a sense of aliveness. So this is where we can go back to nature and the signs of nature. We all know that the caterpillar actually melts before it becomes the butterfly. The coal has to be contracted before it becomes the diamond. So we see this even in the most beautiful pieces of sea glass, what happens with the ocean and the waves and the way that the salt works on a piece of sharp glass. All of a sudden it's soft and it's so beautiful and it's got this high frequency, or even crystals. This is nature, and the laws of nature are never going to disappoint us. So coming back to the high frequency of a rose, roses are so miraculous. Just the scent of a rose, the just looking closely at the rose, it has this absolutely beautiful, divine, feminine existence. And to spend time with roses, especially if they're rooted into the earth, is one of the most healing things that we can do. And when a rose blooms, and one of my favorite quotes is about how it's much more painful to stay tight in the bud than it is to blossom. And I know you've probably heard me saying that over and over again, because I love that theory, and that the importance of what that means to me, because I know that when I'm afraid, or when I am feeling shame, or I'm blaming myself, or I am in a vibration where I feel like I'm receiving negativity and it's chiseling and chiseling and chiseling at my energy field, I can go into a different frequency. And in that frequency that I don't want to be in, I tend to isolate. And in that isolation, I want to go so tightly into that bud. And then I find myself hiding. And in that hiding, I find myself repressing, which is depressing. And I find myself feeling very depressed. So when we feel depressed, we have to press back. And I don't mean press as in push. I mean press as in align again. Align just like the flowers and the roses align. And to remember that it's much more painful to be in that place of isolation than it is to blossom. And in the blossoming of a rose, we see the divine feminine. at her absolute beauty. And she's so delicate. She's so precious. She's so graceful. And she reminds us that we don't need to fight so hard. We don't need to react so much. We just need to be. And by being as the divine's children, we are beautiful. I also love how the rose has thorns. Every rose has a thorn. And and this is just from my own observation of nature, when they're still tight in the bud, the thorns are not as strong. They're not as pointy, and there are not as many. And maybe it's because when they're tight in the bud, they don't need that protection as much, but they're protecting themselves and isolating themselves. So when the rose blooms, there are many thorns, and those thorns are the protection for the rose. And we all have shadow sides. We all have our egos. True enlightenment is not for the earth realm. Yes, Buddha, Jesus, we have had people that have walked this earth who were enlightened. And maybe in this new way of the world shifting so much, maybe there will be. But when we walk on this earth, we have to protect ourselves. If a wild animal came in through this door here and I just sat and said, "Oh, so let's see what happens as this animal is just about to eat my head off." You know, that's what would happen if we didn't have our ego mind, the part of us that is protecting us, that would run or that would do something to protect ourselves. So that goes into how the nervous system operates as well. For human existence, we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the calming. It's where the healing happens. It's where we even receive downloads from spirit. It's where we feel the sense of ease and hope and faith. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight and the flight. So when in nature, there we see it with animals, and there are animals that actually will, after they're threatened and they're experiencing the trauma of being threatened, their bodies will shake. And that shaking is how they release the fight from the sympathetic nervous system, and they are able to survive and get back into that parasympathetic mode. For us, if we are in sympathetic mode, we are in fight, flight, freeze, or appease mode. If we're fighting, we're going to react. If we're freezing, we're going to be that rose stuck in the bud. And then we're going to feel like we're not living our purpose. The train has taken off and we were left at the station. All of those feelings. We're going to feel less alive inside. We're going to feel like we're wasting our time. We're going to start to distract ourselves, getting caught up in whatever it is that numbs us from our true purpose. And we all know what that's like. It can be anything from alcohol to sugar to Netflix to shopping to sex. It can be anything that takes us away from being tightly in that bud. But when we allow ourselves to be the rose, we trust that our thorns are our protection. And we trust that we are part of this morphic field. So in the fight, flight, freeze, or appease mode, there's also the appease mode where we will do anything we can to keep our environment safe, to keep the energy around us safe. And I know this very well from my own experience where I really worked through my own codependency, trying to figure out what is it that why am I appeasing other people? What is it that I'm really trying to do to control my environment? And what I found was that For me, I need a peaceful environment. And for me to be in my parasympathetic state, things can't be too loud. They can't be too discombobulating. They can't be too chaotic because that's my constitution. I I need space. I need some solitude. And I don't mean isolation. I mean just that sense of being present with higher realms and where I can hear the divine speaking. I can hear through nature. I can be in that existence. And when there's too much stimulation, it's very difficult for me. So I will freeze and appease. And in that appeasing, I will do whatever anybody around me needs me to do so that I can have that safety for myself. And changing that, right? So we go into the I am statement. And rather than saying that I am codependent and I am creating these safe environments by appeasing and being a people pleaser and doing what others are wanting me to do so that my environment is safe, I change that and I affirm something new. And that new affirmation is I am worthy of feeling safe in my body, and I am worthy of saying no, and I am worthy of walking away, and I am worthy of my sovereignty when I need my sovereignty. So I don't need to stay in those environments, and neither do you. And we matter. Our existence matters. Our co creation matters. Our purpose matters. So, coming back from the nervous system and knowing what we need to regulate our nervous system, we can look again at nature and how nature has a natural way of regulating the nervous system and how we can learn from that and the laws of nature. So in these morphic fields, again, they're like our biomagnetic fields, our electromagnetic fields, our radiant body, our auric fields. There's a mirror, and this goes right back into quantum physics. Like attracts like. So in our morphic field, if we could consider our energetic body like a morphic field, our vibration is going to attract people, places, things of the same frequency. And nature is constantly interlocking and communicating that way. When there is the most beautiful garden, and my mom was born and raised in England, there's nothing like those English roses. If you ever go into an English garden, all those different colors, it's so beautiful. And those flowers are not competing with one another. And they're not saying, wow, you are so much prettier. So I'm just going to push my roots up against yours and I'm going to send you some weeds. Instead, they're saying, oh, that beauty enhances my beauty. Oh, that. And the gardens recognize that it is in giving that we receive. The gardens recognize that there is no lack and that we live in this abundant universe and there's enough for everyone. And when I am living in my frequency, what is mine becomes mine and what is yours becomes yours. And we even recognize that in moments of jealousy, it's actually a moment of inspiration. Because if we're jealous of someone else, we can look at what is it that they are creating that I want to create and I'm not creating. So if we're tight in that bud and we see a beautiful flower that's bloomed, sometimes we're just so jealous of their courage. We're jealous of someone stepping into their magnificence. And, you know, most of us know that quote. It's not our fear of being inadequate that takes over. It's our fear of being magnificent, being absolutely spectacular. And in this new world that we are all co-creating, in this Renaissance per se period, I truly do believe that love is going to be the frequency, and we're going to start seeing all of these things in a whole new way. And we're going to begin to recognize that there is enough for everyone. And we truly, and I know this sounds crazy because right now, this is not what we're seeing in AI. This is not what we're seeing on social media. This is not what we're seeing on the television. This is not even what we're seeing in parking lots. We're seeing so much fear, and the opposite of fear is love. And I truly believe that we are just like the caterpillar going into that gel to dissolve. The fear is going to dissolve so the butterfly can be born. So these gardens, these English gardens, their morphic field is constantly communicating and constantly sending signals. Okay, it's time for you to listen to the inspiration and bloom. Gardens receive everything they need to bloom. The water, it comes from the rain. Sun comes from the light, comes from the sun. The nourishment comes from the earth. The nourishment also comes from that morphic field. And if you're ever in the redwoods and you see these huge tall trees and you look up, it's like, whoa, where do they even end? It's like they're all the way up into the clouds, up into the heavens. And they have this very simple interlocking system of roots. And those roots send nourishment, messages, and love so that it is underneath the surface in the earth that they communicate. And that is how the trees grow. So think about how amazing this world will be when we really get back to the basics of learning from nature, and we spend more time in nature and we observe how nature works so naturally and the divine co-creates with nature at all times. So by suppressing our truest self, we are not serving anyone. And playing small is not serving anyone. It is when we step into the unknown and we take that leap of faith that we can get into that alignment. So before we do our brief meditation, something that I'm going to mention that could be very helpful as we are doing more of this work together is getting a little journal, a brand new one. It can be a tiny little one. And every day there'll be 3 things that you write down. It can be in the morning or it can be in the evening, but every day you write down what you're grateful for. It could be that you drank 8 glasses of water the day before. You also write down any aha moments that if you're doing it in the morning, it can be from the day before. If you're doing it in the evening, it can be that day before the night when you're retiring for sleep. Aha moments of when you saw the butterfly, when you were talking to someone, and that was a message that you were in the right place at the right time, etc. Any inner knowing that had a sense of, oh, now I understand. So you're grateful and you're also recognizing the signs that are coming from nature or coming from the higher realms, coming from your angels, coming from your inspired action throughout the day. And then one more, what do you feel really good about within yourself that day or right now? It could be that, again, you drank that water. It could be that you're starting a new habit. It could be that you are proud of yourself for moving out of isolation or going somewhere that's a little bit frightening for you. So those three things, very simple. And start doing that every day. And notice how these three things will help to lift your vibration. They'll help to elevate your frequency. Remembering that it is our own resistance that prevents the miracles from happening in our lives. We create our own blocks way too often, and many of them come from limiting beliefs. They come from self-sabotage. They come from our subconscious imprints, from samskaras. Samskaras are the memories that are stored in our subconscious mind and, of course, in our physical body from the past. And when those samskaras are activated from something in the present, the body will respond. And that's when the nervous system is triggered. So in those moments, if we're working on realizing what's happening, and we're working on gratitude, we're working on looking at the best, we're looking at parts of ourselves that we're learning to love better. We are creating new habits that are healthier for us. And we are recognizing those aha moments with nature, with people, the synchronicities that are showing us that we are in the right alignment. All of those things will help us to eradicate the samskaras, moving from trauma into our purpose. And this is very, very real. So maybe listen to this podcast a few times because there's a lot of information, and maybe it will take a little bit of time for it to really sink in. But I've seen so many people heal. I've seen so many miracles happen, and I've been on this journey my entire life. I was born this way, and I'll always be this way. And it's about stepping out of my isolation where I am showing up and sharing. And it's essential for me at this point in my life to do this work. And all of us have assignments, and it hurts. Tighten the bud. Remember, it hurts to stay tight in the bud, especially when the world is going through so many changes. So what is your assignment? What is it that you were born here to do? Now is the time. So again, if you're driving, you can listen to this meditation. And if you are at home and you're practicing with me, just close your eyes and make sure your legs are not crossed. Take a nice deep breath in for the count of 3. Hold your breath for 3. And then release the breath out for 3. And this will work the nervous system. Inhale to bring us into that parasympathetic state. Hold. Exhale. And continue this breathing. Inhaling 3, holding for 3, and then exhaling for 3. And imagine the most beautiful rose at the center of your chest. And choose any color for this rose to be. And keep visualizing this rose here. And breathe. As you're breathing, breathe beyond the rose, deeply down into the lower belly. When we bring the breath down into this area, we actually stretch the fascia at the base of the spine, and this fascia sends messages to our nervous system to find its ability to recalibrate and find ease. Brings us back into that parasympathetic state. So the breathing, the holding, and the rose at the center of your chest. And now imagine the sun is shining on this rose and all the petals are opening. Imagine what this rose smells like. See the radiance, the morphic field, the light outlining the rose. That's the radiance of this flower. And we all have this radiance. It's just a matter of activating it. And see the rays of light coming out of this rose, just like sun, how there's rays of light that shine out from the sun. And come up with an intention. What is it that you're longing for in your life right now? Your soul fulfillment. The imprint is already in your DNA. The blueprint is there. The map is already there. And it's a matter of turning on that navigation system, trusting that with flow, you will arrive exactly where you are meant to be. But what is that intention? What is it that you are longing for in your life right now? And when you have your answer, put it into an I am statement. So if you are looking for love, for example, if you are looking for a partner in love, you can say, I am attracting true love with ease now. I am attracting true love with ease now. If you are needing to heal something, I am healing gracefully with ease now. So you make your I am statement, and you can put this I am statement when we're finished with this meditation right at the front page of the new journal. I am. I am is so important. The I am, the affirmation of I am, not I want, not I need, not I can, not I hope. I am, because the universe responds to the readiness of the I am statement. Otherwise, we're sending out mixed, confusing signals. But I am, the affirming I am, I am, I am. Take a deep breath in, hold the breath for a moment, visualize the rose, and imprint that rose at your heart with your I am statement. And gently exhale. And if your eyes are closed, you can open your eyes. And that is a beautiful meditation to do as much as you want. And again, it's about creating a discipline around these things, but how much do you need to do to get into that discipline? It's not spending hours every single day working, working, working. It's about trusting this new alignment, this new world that we are living in, which is invisible right now. We can't see this very high frequency of love, but this new way is happening without us struggling and pushing. It just is. And one action that we can take is doing our rose meditation. Another action that we can take is putting our affirmation in our new journal, writing those three things down every day. And even in that action, we are reminding ourselves that we matter and our co creation matters and our dreams matter. And we are taking our place in this world, remembering that we are all children of the divine and we are all so loved. And now is the time. Thank you so much for joining me on the Karena, Virginia podcast, where we expect the best and we get it. Please remember to subscribe to Karena Yoga on YouTube, and please comment. Let me know wherever you are. If you're on Spotify or Apple, please comment. Let me know what it is that you would like more of, because I'm here to live my purpose in assisting you to live your purpose, and that is on purpose. So blessings, everyone, and make it a beautiful day because you deserve it.